Welcome to Polishing Profits by the Profitable Cleaner Network, hosted by Mark Anderson, Sharon Cowan, CBSE, and Ed Selkow, seasoned cleaning business owners with over 140 years of success. Learn what works, skip the missteps, and build on proven success.
So, welcome to Polishing Profit. Ed, say something motivating, everyone here.
Motivating.
He's asking hard questions.
Well, here it is. No matter how good it's going or how bad it's going, everybody gets Elvis tickets one day. Period.
Amen. Sharon, same thing.
I had Elvis tickets when I was 18, and I saw him actually in downtown Detroit.
Yeah, but if you see it, if you get tickets now,
now it's a bad day. That would be a bad day. So
Sharon,
motivating. Okay. What? Go ahead.
What's your motivating advice? Just don't look for your Elvis ticket today.
Don't look today, and just be careful where you go and what you do. Just think about it. Don't just go out there and say yes to anything.
Well, since Ed started this line of thought, I'll finish it with regardless of your problems, good, bad, or indifferent, every day on the green side of the grass is a good day.
there you go.
So we'll wrap with that. Speaking of the green side of the grass, let's hit the hidden risks of scaling too fast. That's going to be our segment today. Everybody wants to grow, more contracts, more revenue, bigger footprint. Let's scale this thing. I can go on. If you have some more euphemisms for growing your company, great. And it's really funny because, yes, I do a lot of this. Well, how big would you like your company to be? I want to be 20 million. How big are you today? I'm at 1 million. How long do you think it's going to take you to get to 20? Well, I haven't thought about that. Got to be realistic with this stuff. And this kind of, if you've watched our cash flow series on cash management and understanding cash, if you haven't, roll back, because this does fold back into that. And last time, we were talking about cash flow nightmares. You want a cash flow nightmare, get an account. You can't get an award. You can't really afford to start. And we talked about payroll. We talked about equipment. And everybody wants bigger and better. Is bigger always better? That's part of today's topic. So we're going to jump in here. Let Mr. Mark find his notes. Okay. Yes, I use notes, folks. Big contracts aren't always good contracts. Ed, you love that statement. So I'm going to start over there with you. You want to expand on why big contracts aren't always good contracts?
Well, there's a couple of roadblocks there. The first one is the bidding. Okay, that's the first thing, and then after that, on the plus side, those big accounts are much easier to manage. They're just easier to manage. So it can go either way. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. The bidding thing is probably the scariest. And my favorite is one of the international companies won an entire school system up in the Midwest, and it was somebody in a suit, like with a spreadsheet, and he left 6 schools off of the bid, but they had to perform. No choice, they had to perform. So there's a couple of different. It could go a couple of different ways.
I'll take just a quick hitchhike there before we move over to Sharon on that thought. Years ago, I was working with a contractor when I first got into this, and they had bid something in another state. The owner had been involved with the salespeople. What they didn't figure, the state had a business and occupations tax of 5% of revenue.
Ouch. Wow.
It was a huge contract. Their net profit margin was 4. They were -1 in the hole before they started. Now, this was a smart group of people. They worked it out, but they had a whole year of break even and trying to figure out how to make this work, because it was a very large contract and they were locked in. Something that simple. Now, that's on the large scale. Sharon, let's run over to you. Big contracts aren't always good contracts.
Yeah, and the thing you have to really look at before you take on a larger than typically you do is your whole operation and your systems and your processes. Are they solid? now. Can they handle your growth? And which ones need to change as you grow? Because that old famous saying of mine, if you do business today the way you did business yesterday, you won't be here tomorrow. So take on a huge contract with your current operating processes may not be the smartest thing to do. So you have to be able to sit down and take a good hard look at where you are and where do you need to change to accommodate. And the other piece is the small percentages of mistakes. You make a 1%, 2%, 5% error on pricing and labor control, and you do that at 500,000, it's going to be bad enough. But do it at 2 million for a contract or 1 million for a contract. That's a lot of dollars you're throwing away. So you really have to be aware of your percentages and be careful of the wiggle room for mistakes. It's got to be all scale. We don't necessarily like that word, but everything has to accommodate your growth. So change is inevitable. You have to go with it.
And I think where I'm going to jump off on that comment, what is the foundation of your company? What are you capable of going after? Because that's what you're talking about. What can you put on your operation that you can succeed with and successfully execute that contract? And that's not looked at sometimes. You're going after the wrong target. Now it's great, and we can go through the levels of growth and the plateaus and how you grow into bigger contracts, and we've discussed some of that. But if you don't know what you're capable of doing, you can actually chase contracts, and your business, your production, your service delivery, your quality will fall off while you're chasing stuff you're not qualified to get, or you're not at that level. Whether you're the gold star, the silver star, you're playing semi-pro or pro, you're going to spend a lot of time and burn a lot of money and say, well, owners get paid. So you're burning money. Mm-hmm. So my thought is, are you going after the things that you're going to win? And are you growing your company smartly? Smartly means that if my largest company is 100,000, I can play in that arena. I have proof I can be successful. If I don't, I've got to climb that bit of a ladder, to get you and make sure I can do it. But if I start chasing stuff that's 500,000 square feet, you're not going to make the cut. If you do make the cut, what are you going to do about it? And then if you win it, and all of us have sat in this position. We've all in the growth sat there. Oh, dear God, what do? I got this.
Yeah. And it could put you out of business.
Yep.
It could. Your business.
That a good friend of mine on a beautiful new building. He left his job where he had been for 20 years with a good company, but he was experienced. He spent 20 years in the business. And when I saw him at the pre-bid, I says, "You're not well. Congratulations, it's great, but you're going to try and start with this stuff." And he said, "Well, yeah." And I says, "Well, listen, not for nothing, but you some you got to kind of work up to that. So get a couple of laundromats and beauty parlors and all that stuff, and then like this will be possible." At any rate, in 6 months, the contract was gone. He was bankrupt. And got divorced.
Because if you get something you can't handle, that's what's going to happen. And I think the other side of that, how did you wind up going bankrupt? I've been on that tarmac. All of us have. I've been on that tarmac a couple of times, unfortunately. Is when I go after something that's beyond the capability of the company to produce, everything else in the company gets ignored. Believe me. Mm-hmm. Been there, done that. Go to another state. I spend all my time over there. Things don't go so well at home. The guard's out of the watchtower, so to speak. People aren't running the business like you would run it. So there's a lot of hidden dangers as you start to grow or scale. And as you get bigger and bigger, you have to have the foundation. That's what Ed and Sharon are saying, that you can pull this off, and your current book of business, you don't start a high level of churn and losing customers because your operators you've left in charge can't do what you did. So you have to make sure, and we've talked about this, a replacement there to grow. We're not saying don't grow. We're not saying don't go after things, but it costs a lot of money and time. And I always get back to everybody tells me, I'm the owner. You have a salary? Yeah. Then you're spending money on these contracts. So you don't know what the cost of getting a contract really is. You're paying yourself to make this up $100,000 a year. And I've had owners tell me, well, there's no cost, I'm doing it. I said, well, how are you ever going to hire a salesperson? You don't know the cost because you're just leaving your cost out because you've got owners' income. You do have a cost, and it's you. And when you're going, all this stuff has to be done. So you have to build on a strong foundation. Sharon, you were going to go somewhere.
I see it for any of our viewers, listeners who frequent our Facebook groups. It's every day, 2 and 3 times a day, because I scroll through those and I read. People who are just getting into the janitorial business, new, and they have all this excitement, and it's a very fine line because you don't want to discourage that. But sometimes you want to say to them and say, "Are you kidding me? You're doing 1 or 2 small offices now, and you have a chance to bid on a college campus, and you want to do that, and so you're on Facebook asking people how to bid on this? Come on!" So we see it all the time, and it's the entrepreneurial spirit, and I get that. They want to grow, they want to get big, and all they're looking at is the revenue dollars they think they're going to get. They don't understand what goes into it.
There's a couple of other considerations. One of the big ones, though, is in a small company, especially with no depth to the management folks, the owner is going to spend a little bit of time to get that set up, and in the meantime, everything else goes to hell.
Oh, correct.
Okay, that prospects that you worked your ass off for. Okay, well, you can put that aside. Nothing's going to happen there. You're going to be carrying cases of toilet paper and getting yelled at and a bunch of other
every
stuff
day. Every day. I think the message has to be Ed's discussion about the ladder, climbing the ladder, and I think that entrepreneurs cannot jump that ladder before it's time. They have to climb up the steps of the ladder and take it as they can handle it in their business. I think that's a good analogy. They just can't jump to the top of the ladder. They got to work their way up, and then they're more able to handle what comes their way in terms of big accounts.
And you only, pardon me, and you only win those big accounts by taking a shot at them. We all agree to that. But it's how many shots you take. You have to go after them because the only way to learn how to win those things is to go out and lose, get some experience. But on the flip side, you might chase a couple of huge jobs that are, in your target 20, 30,000 a month, don't win any of them. My question back when I'm advising people is, if you'd have spent that time on $5,000 a month accounts, you'd have a couple of them. You'd have $10,000 worth of work. It wouldn't all be centered in one lump sum, 2 5s, not 110. So you have your risk spread, and you've closed the business, and you've added profit. Now your foundation's bigger. So it's a bit of a leapfrog or a hopscotch thing that you have to watch your business grow and know what you can do. You have to take your shot at those things, but it has to be forecasted. I can only afford to do so many of these things, because when you're doing that and you're not winning, your business isn't growing and replacing any of your churn. So I think that's where I'd wrap it up.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us into the hiring trap. And Sharon, we were having a lively discussion about that. Fast growth can equal hiring problems. Hiring problems and lack of training, getting people in place lead to quality. And as Ed said, the next thing you know, you're getting your notice. So going back to that, what's your thoughts on, do you have the capacity to hire up to handle the contract? Because that can cause you issue.
In terms of field staff, cleaning technicians?
Yeah, just hiring up the people to do it, and the management. If you get a contract you don't have a manager for, you've got to hire everything, supervisor, manager. And
absolutely.
People don't look at. Go ahead.
I have a client now that's doing something that's out of the trade area for him right now, and he has to do an entire staff for our county buildings. So it's coming in and doing a launch. You have to be able to hire smart, hire slowly, and hire fast. And in our labor markets today, that we really have to work hard against the desperate hires. where you're taking anybody that can walk and chew gum at the same time. You really have to be careful of that. And one of the things that I did want to mention before we wrap up is the sometimes conflict, but interesting engagement between salespeople and field operations people. The salespeople who are not trained. I do a lot of sales training for companies for their salespeople because they bring in the best personalities with the most sales experience, but it's not a janitorial. So we do a lot of training with them. One of my prerequisites when I had salespeople of my own was that they had to work in the field for a month. They had to clean toilets. They had to clean buildings.
The only way to do it.
Yeah. You cannot have them sell something they know nothing about. Because now the operations people scratch their head and scream and say, we have to do this in how much time? What, are you crazy? So getting the two to be on the same page, I always found it to be interesting and difficult. Sales always said, yes, yes, yes. And operations said, no, we can't. We can't do it. We can't do that. So
that's not really what they say. That's not really what they say.
No,
You don't be effing mind. Isn't that really what they say, Sharon?
That's exactly.
That's closer to the
I'll
reality.
let that for you to say.
Ed, any thought on the hiring firing trap as you're growing?
Yeah, that was a huge lesson for me, and that was the advantage of me doing this over and over and over again. On the fourth company, I mean, I figured out that there was acquiring customers and acquiring employees wasn't even. They have the same amount of importance.
Yes.
And if you don't, and if you don't have, and we like to talk about systems and stuff like that, but I mean that's essentially what I did was I set it up to where well at one point there was about 9 or 10 years we never advertised. We didn't have to. We just didn't have to.
Yeah, we got to that point too. Is that possible today? I don't know. The market has changed so much.
Totally different. Yep.
We got to a point, everything was referral. People working with us referred friends, family, so on. They felt it was a good place to work. And almost all of it was done on referral. And we always had a backlog of applications we followed up on. I'm not going to go down through the process. But I think the other thing, my war story was we got an account, and we were with a big operations group at the time, Morrison Knudsen. So MK Services, we did a company with them, joint venture. And they were like Johnson Control. They're not around. I think they're USXR now or somebody. They've been purchased, but they were real big back in the 90s, late 90s. And we had to start an account with 120 people in one day, full time. And so a little company called General Electric in upstate New York, almost 2 million square foot. Well, so we brought over some staff, obviously, but then we had a vacuum of about another 60 people. And I can remember sitting in the unemployment department, interviewing with two of my managers and my other partner and trying to go through people. And you talk about desperate hiring, the clock's ticking, we're going down. Partner says, do you have the staff? We're say we're working on it. And we got a clock ticking in 2 weeks. Now we got the staff and we were there the first night. And that's a story for another day over a whiskey or something. But I'll tell you what, that was the most horrible month of my life. Now we got it all going. We had the contract for 3 or 4 years as part of that team. But I got to tell you, you talk about some desperate hiring and taking what comes in. And you know what that did? Turnover. People just started to fall out. So now we're back hiring, filling holes, back hiring, filling holes. And I don't care if it's 120 people or it's 3. If you're back hiring and filling holes for even 3 people and you've only got 30 people, that's 10% of your staff you're working on every day. Something else isn't getting done in the company and you're sure not making a great first impression. So you can get into those kind of things. And it doesn't have to be 120 people, but yeah, I earned my stripes on that one.
Well, and at one point I had everything in Maitland. I had all the office buildings there. And on the first night we were 75 people short. 75.
Wow.
Well, yeah, we were competing with all the hotels in Orlando and all the hotels and the amusement parks. You know, so there was three of us that were after, or three different groups that were after employees and stuff. So it was a huge deal. And how I came to the decision that acquiring employees is exactly as important as getting clients. What you can't have one without the other. You just
And
can't.
it's the same funnel. You have to identify them. You have to make yourself aware who your best products are. You need an employee funnel, just like you need a sales lead funnel, an employee lead. It's the same process.
And you need to market to them, to the prospective employees.
And boy, people forget. Excuse me. So do you have an employee funnel? Well, what does that look like? And if you understand what a sales funnel is, it's the same thing. And Ed's been beating that drum over here for this portion in this segment. And I think it's well credited that you have that in your mind. Can I staff this? Am I ready? Do I have the foundation? And am I hiring? Ed, it's for you. They're towing your car.
Sorry. Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah, sorry, Ed. At least I digress. Okay. So I think the point is you need an employee hiring funnel the same way as you need a customer acquisition funnel. And you need to think about that and assess your company. There's a takeaway for it. And again, people are hard to find. Sharon made that point. Yeah, they're difficult. This is tough. And that means you even have to have more emphasis based on your growth, what you're bidding, what's coming on. Because hopefully everybody's got, $50,000, $100,000 worth of bids out or whatever it is based on your size, waiting to be signed. And you're going to get 33% of those if your salespeople are average, and you have to be able to staff those. And so again, you have to treat it like a funnel. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I've heard. And I talk about that, but really just putting it in that funnel perspective. So segment 3, I'll check on my time. We're at 24 minutes. So let's wrap up with the hidden costs of rapid expansion. So if we want to take a look at that, Ed, rapid expansion and rapid, remember folks, rapid is relative. If I've got $10,000 worth of business and I sign a $10,000 a month account, I just doubled my business.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, this doesn't have to be big number, and you will grow. The smaller they are, the easier it is, but that's when your system should be in place. And what's some of the hidden costs? Because you did a lot of this stuff all across the United States for years. So what are some of the hidden costs in rapid expansion that people overlook?
Well, what we talked about, the inability to assemble a team. Okay, and a lot of that's geographical. There's some real problems in the middle of the desert in Arizona. Okay, you got if there's nobody around, you're not going to find them. You're not going to find employees or people that want to work. That's probably that and the money, and trying to do it with money. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly going through this. As a matter of fact, I think I just did it a couple of days ago, and somebody was I was having a Facebook debate, if that's possible.
Sharon, hidden costs.
So one of the things to look at overall first is to make sure that any one account is not more than 20%.
Okay.
25, but I'm going to say
guardrail.
18 to 20% of your total revenue. Mm-hmm. When you have that $10,000 a month revenue stream, and now you're going to add another 10, which is 50% of your total revenue, you're in the danger zone because it can be very dangerous. So keep that in mind. The other piece is the supervision costs. If you are remote, this location is not particularly near your central market area, the cost of traveling and the cost of getting a supervisor that you have trained and you trust to that property. Even if the building is in your market area and a supervisor is local, you're going to have the added supervision costs that you may not have on a smaller account. It's going to take more dollars in supervision, which goes into your overhead numbers. So being careful. How much is that revenue and how much is it going to cost to supervise?
Don't put more than 20% of your current volume at risk
Right.
when you take something else on. So if I'm doing 10,000, a month, you've got to be careful not to get over your skis.
Correct.
And you handle it. So I think just to wrap things up, I'm going to use my handy dandy cheat sheet here. But to summarize what we've been saying, to give you some takeaways, action steps, building a scaling cost model, so to speak. And before you say yes to something that's going to be 50% of your business, now again, it's where you are in the business, but it all gets back to foundation. Can I afford to do it? And can I geographically control it? And I think those are some good points that were made here. Everybody gets excited. It's a $2,000 a month account. Well, where is it? Well, it's an hour and a half away from my next question is, are you nuts?
I've heard that.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for you to lose money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your geographical range, it's your financial and your operational capabilities. Understand your labor and benefits in running all of these things. You have to know your recruiting and training. So regardless of the size and how it's going to affect and have the impact on your company, are you set up and getting the most important thing, filling the top of that employee file? So what's your recruiting? And once you have these people on, you got to train them. Somebody has to have time to that. So who's going to do that? Sharon just talked about it. Supervision and quality assurance. Are you going to be able to get out there and do this often enough to make sure that you can deliver what you sold? Because if you get it and you turn it and burn it, as we used to say, and you only get a couple years, you're going to be losing money. We've talked about profitability, and it is, revenue for vanity and profit for sanity. And cash is always king. We've talked about that just in the last segment. Supplies and equipment replacement, repair. Are they within your geographical reach to support the people that are doing the work? And finally, the fun one, if you're really going big, admin and travel. People just miss that. I can't tell you the number of times I look at stuff. Where's your T&E budget? What's that? Well, you're sending somebody to 3 states. They're either going to drive or fly. Did you put the cost in the contract? Well, I didn't think about that. Well, that's because you haven't done this before.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect intended. So labor and benefits, recruiting and training, supervision and quality assurance, supplies and equipment. And are you building on a sound foundation that you can take this on, continue to keep your current business? So your retention, can you keep your current business running it, and can you expand at the same time? So be careful what you wish for, and be careful what you chase after, because sometimes you could just be, I hate to use this phrase, but I love it, chasing the dragon. That has all kinds of connotations.
It's true. Yeah.
Guys, any takeaways that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I'll just say, don't jump over the ladder. Take the steps all the way up.
Nice. Ed?
Yeah. Listen, don't show up with empty pockets looking for, giant leaps in revenues. And that was the discussion that I had was, if you say something about startup money, there's 15 people say, oh, you don't need it. You don't, just go to the dollar store and you'll be fine. The best analogy I got is, look, yeah, it's possible, but it's also possible to walk from New York to Los Angeles, but it might not be a great use of your time, so.
And I think I'll finish up with, growth should make your business stronger, not shakier. If you want to grow, do it with your eyes open. Calculate the cost, plan your staffing, protect your margins, for crying out loud. Protect your margins. Your margins are what build your business, not the revenue. So you have to have those things. New revenue can be a big pit you fall into.
Correct.
And I think we'll leave with that. Now, this wrap up has been great. We actually need to make a banner for it or something. I don't know. I liked it. It was great. So with all that said, thank you for viewing. We appreciate your viewership. You can always reach out to us. We're there. All of our contact information is available. And if you'd like to have a chat, please give us a call. You can find us, listen to us, see us if you want to see us. Well, you might want to see Sharon. Ed and I are probably. Anyway, thank you for Polishing Profits. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody. God bless. Cheers.
Toodles.